and it was sell your house, sell your truck. It terrified me.
60% of all school children, 60% of them will experience cyberbullying. 1 out of 4 girls will inflict harm upon themselves, and 1 out of 10 boys will do it.
The parents do rely on tech to babysit their kids sometimes. They do rely on entertainment. They turn around and go, why does my child believe this, this, and this, or behave in this particular way? Well, you've allowed that entertainment to practically raise your kid.
Is it power? Is it money? Is it notoriety? Like all these other things can call you too, but they're not the right calling.
If we lose the quest for truth and the quest for the use of story as the vehicle for truth, and now it's a vehicle for fame, or now it's a vehicle for money.
Is that going higher? Is that getting closer to heaven? Or is it going further away? Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
This is Nathan and Delitha.
Delitha,
Married
yes.
couple, last name Myers, yes?
Mm-hmm.
Both, one of you a filmmaker and the other a theatrical performer?
Yes, I got my start on the stage. I have a bachelor's degree in musical theater and a master's in drama. I studied abroad at the Gaiety School of Acting in Dublin, Ireland. And I was a union actor for over a decade. But then in our region that we're in, a lot of the actors, you can't make a living just doing theater. So usually you branch out and do TV, film. And so I did. And then now I'm the director of Fort Worth Actors Studio, and I teach others how to be on camera. And then, yeah.
I started in ministry, but kind of got led back into the arts, started doing musical theater, met Delitha doing musical theater. And in 2005, auditioned for a feature as an actor and kind of got bitten by the film bug. I got very interested in film and started collecting film friends, working on movies, PA, and then eventually directing this feature that we're releasing this summer, which I co-wrote with Delitha. And it was kind of our first soiree into film together, even though we had kind of both been parallel doing a little of that. She'd done some movies and TV. I'd done a little movies and TV. And then suddenly we felt very called by God to work together and do something. And then this project we're here to talk to you about today is the byproduct of that.
I'm interested in what you heard and who started the conversation and the genesis of finding a way to work together. I think lots of people would like to hear about that.
Yeah, that's a funny kind of, I wouldn't say it's cliche, but it is kind of a story you may have heard before, or some people may have heard before. I don't know if everyone's lived it. It was the first time I was really living it to the degree that I was. And I had been involved in the arts for about 10 years post Bible college and some mission work, and thinking that I was going to work for the church. Then I went back into the arts full time, and I'd been collecting film friends, like I said, and I'd started working on several projects, but there was really no mission about it. It was just whatever I could get into. My faith was still close to my heart at the time, and so I would discern what I was working on and go, am I comfortable working on this? Is this something I can put energy behind? And in about 2010, I had done a couple of features with friends as a producer. I had worked as an actor. I toggled in several different job positions, and I was feeling kind of cynical about it. The last feature that I did with a friend of mine was really rugged and difficult and challenging, and I kind of felt washed up after I got finished with that. And I started praying. I was just like, Lord, this can't be, because it just all felt wrong and everything felt off, and I wasn't feeling good about what I was doing, and it was pretty miserable actually. And I got if I've ever gotten a clear call from God to do something, it came at that point. And I have felt called at different points in my life, but this call was very clear. It was very loud, and it was sell your house, sell your truck, and it terrified me because I thought God was going to put me in a pulpit or something, or lead me back into ministry like my dad. My dad is a 40-year church planting pulpit minister. Mm-hmm. And I thought that might be where I would land if I embraced that call. And so I went to her and I said, here's what I've heard and I need to do. And she's incredibly supportive, and she trusts me in that regard. And so I said, we have to sell the house, the truck. And she said, what? And I said, what are we going to do? I don't know, but I think I'm getting out of the film industry, is what I told her. And
I think it's important to note that we also had an infant at the moment, like very small child.
It's a good time for change.
It is. Excellent time.
Right. Yeah. It was maybe not, it was a little inopportune, but
everything happens at once always. It's never a good time, right?
No.
So
we sold the house, we sold a truck, and that was May of 2014. And I had a really good friend who called me. He's in the film space. He's a Jesus lover. A guy named Scott Mendez. He's a world champion bull rider in Weatherford, Texas. And he calls me and he says, hey, I have a couple of scripts I want you to produce and direct for me. And I said, well, I love you, Scott. Thanks for the opportunity, but I think I'm getting out. I think I'm getting out of I said, God's just called me to sell my house, sell the car, and he acknowledged all that, appreciated all that. But he said, I don't believe you. I'll see you in July. No. And, that I was going to get out of the industry, that I was going to move out of that space. And sure enough, after a lot of prayer, and we visited my parents in Florida for about 6 weeks. Great. It was more than a month, just to kind of seek God and just go, what's next? What is this transition? And independently of one another, as I think it should be for couples, I got a very clear direction to go make a movie. Like that's what you want to do. That's what I'm empowering you to do that. I'm releasing you to do that. I'm sending you to do it. Just keep me in mind. You don't have to go make a Christian film. You don't have to just go live your life and be free. It is for freedom that I've set you free. Go be free, live your life, and enjoy what you're doing, but keep me in mind. And when I went back and shared that with her, she beat me to the punch. She was like, I know what we're doing. We're going back to make a movie. And so I called my friend Scott and said, hey, we're on our way back to Texas so maybe we should chat. And he said, I told you so. And interestingly, though, after a couple of weeks of conversation with him, trying to come to some terms about what we should be doing, we just decided that there was not a joint effort that was going to work. There wasn't anything clicking between us and them. And I got off the phone with him one day and I said, what are we going to do? This doesn't make any sense. She said, what's going on? And I said, well, he doesn't have a script. I said, we're really at an impasse. And so she's sitting there, she opens her laptop, and an hour later I see her and she's typing, and I watch and I'm thinking, what is she doing? And, I said, what are you working on? What are you doing? Because it was a little out of character for her to do that, what she was doing at the time. And she said, leave me alone. And so, couple hours later, she's still at the computer. And I said, what are you doing? She said, I think I'm writing a screenplay. And she really was. It was like she was instantly pregnant with an idea. She gestated it and birthed it in about 14 days, which is uncanny for screenplay, but she gave us
anytime that baby was asleep, I was just writing. Loved nap times.
And if there's anybody who could, and she's a 5 on the Enneagram, she's a problem solver. She's one of those people that will, if you've got an issue, let me just fix that for you. And so she heard, oh, we need a script. Let me fix that for you. And, it's not just anybody that might be able to pull a script out of her back pocket, but, I do think that it was, hers to do at the time. She's also got a master's in drama and all of this experience in theater, and understands the form. And so it was very easy for her to generate something. So that's how it started. And when we started to put our weight down on that endeavor with that particular script. And the other aspect of this that I think that is most meaningful to me, that I think will be meaningful to other people, is that as soon as we were obedient to that particular task, little resources started presenting themselves to us, and little doors started opening. But we had just sold a house. We had sold a vehicle. We were virtually homeless. We were living with the in-laws. This was 10 years ago, living with the in-laws. And one of the elders in my church said, "Oh, just embrace it. You're living a biblical archetypal story. Moses and Abraham both lived with the in-laws. So, just do it." And so it was kind of an awkward, very strange time. We didn't have a lot of money in the bank, despite the sale of a house.
But we also had no debt. We had no bills, really, aside from food.
Right. We were very well supported, debt free, but we didn't have a lot of money in the bank. In fact, we had about $2,500, which is nothing in the grand scheme against a film. We had about $2,500 that we could put forward towards a project, but we knew that's what we were being called to do. And we said, what do we do this with? How do we make this happen? And the other clarity for me that came through that was, you have 5 loaves and 2 fish. Go pass it out. You of all people should understand this principle, but you don't get it. And he said, you should know this by now. You're a preacher's kid. You're like Timothy. You've had this inheritance that has been given to you by, great grandparents and grandparents. It's been passed down to you. You should get this, but you don't get it. And I'm going to teach it to you. And so that was part of what was taught to us in the process, was take what you have, be obedient, go invest that. And as soon as we did, crazy momentum started to happen, and door after door and resource and provision, stuff just started dropping on us. Much to our chagrin at times, where we'd go, wow, this is crazy. But we had a really incredible production season as a byproduct of that, with lots of little miracles and things that just don't make sense. They just don't add up, except that when you're in that river of obedience and you're stepping in faith, really stepping in faith, that there's power in that. And so that's kind of how it started. It's not entirely how it didn't last entirely, but it started to come back around, though. It's interesting. Yeah.
One thing I'm curious about in all that you said that keeps coming back to me is, you said that at the beginning it was a rough time, and it was a lot of unknowns. How did you navigate that? Just that moment of unknowing and discomfort, that a lot of people will turn away from their discomfort and find a place to comfort themselves. But I'm wondering how you dealt with that.
How did we deal with that?
There were some good moments and some bad moments, In the good moments, I'd say we came together and we had really intentional prayer. There was a lot of just, right before we go to sleep and right when we wake up from sleep, and we're kind of in that in between, just really intending to have answers from the Lord. And then in the bad moments, there's lots of tears and lots of apologies, because yes, we know that we are to trust in God always, and we know that His timing is not our timing.
That's a good one.
But I haven't learned it, because He keeps trying to teach it to me over and over again.
Yeah. Even when we know it, He wants us to get better at it.
Yes.
When we think we know it, right?
Yes.
Yeah, but it's really something I think that a lot of people have trouble with. I know myself, I've had trouble with it, but I see people still searching broadly to find something to make themselves feel better, when actually the disharmony that you feel is a moment to embrace, because there's change. There's change in that chaos, I guess is what you can call it. It's hard to have faith all the time in that process, as they've shown in all of the storms in the Bible. it's hard to, weather the storm, I guess is what we say, but practicing that to be constant in our faith is, well, it comes in handy. That's right. The practice comes in handy.
Yes.
And that's what I'm finding anyway. It's all about the journey, the practice, and getting better at discerning, like you said, to figure out which path is it that has the intention behind it that is God's will, rather than is it power? Is it money? Is it notoriety? Like all these other things can call you too, but they're not the right calling. They have those are short-lived journeys. And we're looking for long-lived journeys, even though there'll be ups and downs in them. Anyway, that's kind of what I hear from what you're saying. But that's a good start, because look where you've come now.
I've had to get to the point with it to just go, well, if God's purpose for the entire project was all of that, it was to teach us what we needed to know. It was to teach us how to pass out 5 loaves and 2 fish. It was to teach us how to walk on water at times. If that's what the point was, and I died today, well, that should be enough. And whether I ever saw the release of a film or success of any sort of worldly definition, whether or not that doesn't matter to me. And I did become, it's funny, it just became almost 100% detached from the outcome, which I think you have to. That's true. That's true with many things, but it's particularly true when God's trying to teach you something, and he uses anything. He'll use illness, or he'll use circumstance to put you, kind of corner you in that regard. And when you become eventually detached from the outcome and embrace and surrender to him and to his purpose, whatever that is, then things start to change. They start to evolve, or it's like you've passed a threshold or something. So
yeah, no, I can hear that. I can understand that. So Talitha, let's see what it was during that process where Nathan was discerning what to do next, and he'd had a calling. And how did you come to sit down and start writing the screenplay?
My core driver is helping my close people. And so I just, when he said, this is what God has called me to do, this is what I need to do, I need to make a film, I don't have a script. I thought, I could do that. And so I just, I went into, what do I know? Well, I know kids, and I know kids who love to perform. And I also, unfortunately, know mean girls. And so, so it kind of came about, how can we take essentially this little girl who is quite mean, she's quite selfish, she's quite vain. How can we take her and have her be introduced to a loving Christian family? And how can that family influence her for the better? How can she change? She might not come to Jesus by the end of the film, but how can she change for the better? And so I don't know, I just kind of played with these things that I do know. I know homeschool, I know public school, I know moms. And so I wrote it from what I know. And I may not come across as funny in person, but inside I'm hilarious. And so as I was writing, I was, it came out that it's a funny movie. And which is great, because that's what I like to watch. I like to be entertained. I like to laugh. I like to find joy. And so, and then it became a musical, because that's really all I love. I love musicals. I love musical theater. And so, it just came about, and then I talked to Nathan, and he read through it. And then we had this wonderful team of like-minded individuals who wanted to make this film be the best it could be. And so we went through many writing stages, and then Nathan, he was in a boy band. Didn't know that probably, but he was with his brothers. And
right?
Of course. Yeah. In the 90s. Yes. That's when I met him. That's why I married a boy band boy. But he is a really great lyricist and a really great writer of music. And so he wrote 5 of the original songs in the film. Some are very musical theater. One of the songs is a gorgeous prayer. And our big 11 o'clock number is, a wonderful musical theater song that has God at the center of the song. And so just drawing upon my personal experiences and his experiences, it's just, we created this celebration of kind of who we are.
We also looked at the industry at large and things that are guilty pleasure movies for us, like something like Mean Girls, which is, since she's brought up the concept of Mean Girls. We love satire. Satire is a great package to house truth. Comics do it all the time. And we were looking at the industry going, man, we can't show, you can't show these films to children. We shouldn't be showing these things to kids. But we, grew up watching some of these things, much to my parents' chagrin. They're going, you shouldn't, don't watch that. Too bad. And so we were thinking, well, these are things we appreciate, we like, but how do you take those genres like the public school campy comedy genre? How do you take that and flip it on its head? And instead of it being used for the fast food, junk food, high sugar content of what that film usually is for people, it's usually completely worthless without a whole lot of substance. How do you take that genre and infuse substance into it so that you have that same kind of feeling, but we actually have some truth and some depth and some life in the genre? How do we do that? And so we were looking at all of it, all of the different genres, and how do we flip them and use them for good instead of for evil? And in fact, one of the songs in the story is called "Make Good," and our main character is singing, can you make some good out of me, and can I make good? How do I bring something good out of my own life? And so the whole theme is how do we do that? And so we were living it. So it was life imitating art, imitating life. We were ourselves in the process of doing that, but so is our main character.
Oh yeah, that's a good story. I was thinking, I know I read somewhere in here that you would talk possibly about addiction, tech addiction. I wonder, is that in your movie? Or is that just something you're concerned with?
No, it's a big theme.
Okay.
Maybe not tech addiction, but just using tech for evil. How the evil one uses tech and influences us. And so, we wrote it, and then we kind of looked at, this is a major theme happening, and it now having kids, even my 3-year-old, I have to fight him with tech addiction at 3 because it's just everywhere. But cyberbullying is in our movie. And, a stat is that 60% of all school children, mostly 12 to 18, 60% of them will experience cyberbullying of some sort. And then what does that lead to? Well, 1 out of 4 girls will inflict harm upon themselves, and 1 out of 10 boys will do it. So it's a real issue there. And then tech addiction is an issue. I mean,
well, we're hardly ever ready for it, even as adults.
Especially, yes. Yeah. But so we don't actually have like the addiction to tech, although you could look at our main character and see how she has to always be on a device and how she's using that device, and she's hungry for it. So it's in there. But we do have lots of themes of cyberbullying and just tech in general. But we did create a parent leaders guide that goes along with our movie. And we have little blurbs about here's a theme like tech, and let's talk about it. Here's some Bible verses to discuss some things further. Every chapter has at least 3 questions for the parent or the leader to discuss with their kids. And for the littles, it has like connect the dots and some things that they can do
crossword puzzles,
so that they can be doing something while they're listening to the parents talk to the older kids. And so we have that as a tool for parents and kids, because we do want the movie to bring about discussion for different topics.
Yeah, and we feel like the parents ought to be the ones having that conversation. Mm-hmm. If parents, part of the problem that we're addressing is that parents do rely on tech to babysit their kids. Sometimes they do rely on entertainment, not just to babysit, but then they turn around and go, why does my child believe this, and this, or behave in this particular way? And if they're being real honest about what they've done, it's like, well, you've allowed that entertainment to practically raise your kid. You've let them, they're so influenced by that, and they're less influenced by you because you're at work, 60, 70 hours a week. And when you are home, you put them on the device because you're tired. And so parents turn around baffled by the behavior of their kids and the disconnect, and there's a direct correlation to entertainment and devices. And so, but we want the parents to have that conversation. If we came out right on the nose in our film and wagged our finger at everybody and said, shame on you for doing this or that or the other, that's not going to be very palatable, like I said. Mm-hmm. But the film brings up all of these potential conversations.
I like I like taking what's being done right now. For instance, the new Snow White movie that Disney has done, and then comparing it to the Grimm's fairy tale to show what the story was that was inspired by God in the beginning, and then how we have, through societal changes, how we've decided in our own volition that we'll change the story to suit what's going on in society. And that story, how they've changed it, is very dramatic. Right? Mm-hmm. It's changed. There isn't even a prince anymore, so it's very dramatic. There's no glass coffin. Like, there's no adoration of beauty for the prince to carry away this maiden who's no longer alive, but she's so beautiful. He takes her with her because he's in pursuit of beauty, but because he does take responsibility, of course, the apple falls from her throat and she awakens and he marries her. And that's the Grimm fairy tale, but no, they didn't keep it. It's no wonder that story's not doing very well, because it's lost the spirit of the story.
Mm-hmm. And that's the truth I was talking about earlier, that story encapsulates truth, and it can, at least, and it should, in its best use, to help teach or stimulate culture and things like that. It's and of course, story in its best form, like Jesus used it, is truth in a fiction. That's what the parables are. The parables are a little piece of fiction, but they are true, just like Sleeping Beauty or Snow White were when they were originally written. But if we lose the quest for truth and the quest for the use of story as the vehicle for truth, and now it's a vehicle for fame, or now it's a vehicle for money, or at worst right now, I was reading some stats this week that a couple of our elite billionaires are investing heavily in cartoons and children's programming, because they know that through these vehicles, they can literally program psychologically the purchasing behavior of those kids when they're teens and adults. And so they're getting to them right now. And so that type of very self-motivated, very money-motivated driver has so infiltrated storytelling that we've, like you said, we've lost the heart and the soul of what was the point. And I think, Sleeping Beauty and Snow White both are such beautiful pictures of Christ in the church. And we've lost that. And if we've lost that, wow, we are, like I said, in a bad state. So
we've turned away from it, which is, it's all in the intention. That's what I've learned. It is all in the intention, that it comes from the first intention, which I know is written in scripture, and I don't know the scriptures, but I know that that's the case. It's your first intention in any project that guides you in the right direction. It's not, it has to come from there, or it's just not going to go up, straight up to heaven. It's going to go in a skewed direction, and who knows where that'll take you and everybody else. So you got to be super careful with every intention that you make.
That's right. I think people too could look at our project and go, well, it's very campy. It's very satirical. It's really colorful and silly and madcap. And they could look at that and go, well, how does that equal this? And I want to challenge those people. All film and all of that should be with parental guidance. Everything, right? Everything should be kind of tempered and filtered through that filter first. So, if you're just hoping that we made something that's cotton candy that you can give to your kid and you don't have to talk to them about it, well, I'm sorry. They may have some questions about this one. It may inspire some conversations, but we did that on purpose. We're trying to help parents create that conversation.
Because with my daughter, I would watch things with her, and there are things for the littles, and then there are things that older teens and adults can watch. But that 8 to 14-year-old age group, there's very few things out there that are positive at the end of the day, that don't have Hollywood's agendas creeping in. There's very little that I feel is safe for her to watch. And then there's even fewer things that have Christ at the center of the story nowadays. And so, kind of writing this project and then continuing for all these years on this project, she's the reason that we do this. It's just to create good quality, fun content for her that can inspire positive conversations and that can help lead her closer to Christ and not lead her further away from him, as a lot of things might do that she could watch. There was a stat out there that's like, there's only 15% of all things out there on streamers, including YouTube, that are made for kids and tweens. And then the staggering stat is 268% more is available. It's all made for adults and it's mature. And 268% of everything out there is not appropriate for kids. And so if kids are just like, if you're the parent who's like, here, just scroll on, TikTok or whatever, or even YouTube, they're going to see something that they should not be looking at.
There's also a big shift happening in Hollywood right now, and 60% plus of the content that kids and teens are looking at is actually from YouTube. It's not from another streamer or certainly not going to the cinema, because that's not part of the cultural thing anymore. A little bit, they'll go see
not
a
so
big
much
sum.
though, eh? Yeah.
But YouTube specifically is now so influential that it's has surpassed Disney and Amazon and some of the other in terms of who's watching it, and the kids and the teens are the ones actually looking at that. And so if parents are thinking, oh, well, there's not, it's not that big of a deal. I'm like, well, if it's bigger than Disney and it's bigger than Amazon in terms of its influence on kids, you should probably take note. You should probably pay attention. Filmmakers are paying attention. In fact, one of the reasons we passed on some of our distribution offers is because the distributors made distribution through YouTube a non-starter. If we weren't willing to allow the project to go to YouTube, then they would say, oh, well, sorry, that's a big one for us. And because they know they're building their YouTube presence with the intent of possibly even changing their entire distribution model. So we weren't quite ready to do that. And so we've landed at Amazon specifically.
Right. And I know boys are more often watching YouTube, and girls are more often watching TikTok. So there's a separation of the sexes into those different types of platforms. TikTok is very interactive, very conversational. YouTube is more listening, paying attention, watching. So a little bit different type of interaction that seems to call to the different maturity of the boys and girls at their teenage years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and there may be a conversation there to be had about just the difference between masculine and feminine energy and the way we interact with those types of platforms as well. And so,
yeah, because look at you guys. I mean, you had a calling. You felt, you discerned a calling to sell your house and to sell your truck, and then you were looking to see what was it, and then you come up in your female way and think about the like underpinning, I guess, to the action, because the men are creatures of action. They're creatures of going here and going there and doing this. And women, we hold places, right? We hold places. And it's so cool that you thought up you just began to investigate the structure of the idea in reality, practically, the movie. That's very cool that happened. Just the way it's written,
mm-hmm.
you know? And that's what you hope for when you're doing something, is that you're following guidance that is true, like you said, right? Looking for truth.
Right. Because the worst, at worst, when we write something, it's a reasonable story, but it, has maybe little substantive value other than titillation or, an interesting 90 minutes in somebody else's world for a moment. But at best, story can really change the world and can change culture, and especially when it's impactful and actually true. If parents have not seen The Social Dilemma, the movie that was released in 2020 during the pandemic about the impetus for social media, and it was some of the code writers and instigators for Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and things like that. Those guys all interviewed talking about the addictive and the addictive quality and the contrivance of it all, intending to make it addictive through
of course
notifications.
Marketing is a big deal. Marketing is a big deal. How are we going to make this company worth more? What do we do? And if I studied advertising a little bit when I went to art school. I just took a class in it, but my kids were very young, and I knew I didn't have the time to spend in that industry, so I didn't go in that industry. But just the taste of that power of suggestion that I knew I could be a part of if I wanted. But what that would mean if you didn't have an ethical grounding in what you were doing, it can go anywhere. It can say anything. And we're seeing a lot of that because people aren't as sure as they might be that where their message comes from is important. It's worth a reflection on realizing that it is very important for your children and for you to know where the messages are coming from and where they're leading to. Like, just imagine sometimes when you're paying attention to these messages, where is this leading to? Is that a good place? Is that going higher? Is that getting closer to heaven? Or is it going further away? It's pretty easy to kind of see the difference between those two directions.
Yeah.
Well, and we try really hard with our kids, but even though we try and we're aware, like my daughter's best friend, their family, they're missionaries, and so they're over in the continent of Asia doing mission work, and so the only way that she can talk to her best friend is through Facebook Messenger. And how amazing that she talks to her every week, sometimes every day, across the world. But even though I think I'm being really diligent, and she's talking to her friend, well, they have a common book series that they were obsessed with. And last year, the next book was coming out, and that's all they talked about. And then, then that book comes out, and this particular book, it had been so good. And then all of a sudden, this book, the world's agenda came in. All sorts of homeschool moms got so angry. It was a big thing. But this book series, through her best friend, she found out that they have fandoms and websites where fans will rewrite stories and explore new relationships within characters. And I noticed it was last year, and all of a sudden my daughter, she got like emo. You know, she was 11 years old, and I was like, what is wrong with this child? She was just like, "Rrr." And I was like, I'm just gonna look and see what she's looking at on this tablet. And then she knows she's not allowed to go on YouTube. She's not allowed to do hardly anything. But if it involves reading, I'm all about it. And like 3 web pages were up from this fandom world where people were just writing random stories, and they were not okay. They explored relationships, and they didn't speak like the characters usually speak in the book, and it was dark. And I shut that down. And fortunately, I have a daughter who is like, I did something wrong. Let me repent. I shall never touch that again. Whereas my boy he's not like that. But fortunately for me, I'm dealing with her. And so, when we had to have a conversation that I was not really ready to have at 11, I thought I might have it at 14, but we're having a conversation at 11. And so even though I think I'm doing everything right, I wasn't. We're all humans. But anyway, you just have to be really aware and look at your kids. And is your kid acting different? Is it just because they're a teenager now, or is it because of something they're seeing, something that someone's saying to them? Are they being cyberbullied? What is it? You just have to you just turn on that intuition and really be present.
I'm curious
vigilant.
about homeschooling. And you guys homeschooled, is that correct? Why did you do that? And how old were your kids when you decided to do that? And how long did you do it for? Did you put them back in the school system? I'm curious about all that.
So we are both products of the public school system, but it was a different time, different era. And we had great schools and great teachers. Anyway, I taught in public schools for 2 years before I had kids. I taught theater. And I love teaching. I love kids. But there were so many things that I had to do in order for that school to get this grant from the government or from this. And so, and the parents were not involved very much, and just dealing with all the paperwork and all the bureaucracy really got in the way of me teaching and enjoying my job. But me seeing these kids that went to these particular schools, I thought, okay, if I have kids, we're not doing this. I don't know what we'll do, but I know we're not going to do this. Because the stories one hears, they're true. They're very true. And so one of my best friends, Sarah Slaughter Hughes, who is the main mom in our movie, we were resident actors at a regional theater for a while together. And I had her in mind when I was writing the script. And then we went to visit a church, and lo and behold, who am I standing beside but my long lost friend, Sarah Slaughter Hughes. And so we reconnected years later, and I told her, I have this movie that it's you. I have to have you in it. And so we rekindled our friendship, and I met her kids, and her daughter in particular. And her daughter was so intelligent and so good with people skills.
Well-spoken.
She blew me away. And I said, what have you done with her? And she said, oh, I homeschool, and this is what I do. And I said, oh, great. I have this little child. I'm going to do exactly what you did. And so that is why I homeschooled, is because of the fruit of what I saw from my friend's child. And so we started when she was 4, just like being part of a group, we do social aspects. We have co-ops or tutorials where we get to interact with one another. And we did that for a while. And then when COVID hit and all the homeschool groups also immediately were like, okay, we're only going to do Zoom. We're not going to meet. I thought, well, what am I doing? I'm trying to be different than the world. And we can't even meet in person. All right, we're through. So I quit my group, and I said, we're just going to teach one-on-one here. And then during COVID, I was like, if I am not allowed to do all these things, and if the government is telling me that my business as an acting studio is non-essential, well, I'm doing something different. And so I moved our whole family to Florida so that I could go to the beach, so that I could be outside, without masks and just enjoy life. And so I took this private job at this lovely school in Florida. And I taught theater there. And so my daughter went with me there, and we just did it for a semester. And because I really couldn't handle the mask wearing. And so I'm a free spirit. And so we did it for a semester. I stood my ground. My daughter was the only one in that school that didn't wear masks, because I just was like, no, I'm not putting that on my child. She's 7 at the time. And so I was very feisty. And so she had that experience, and I'm really glad she had that experience, because after that, she was all about homeschooling, because she had experienced what it was like to be one of many in a class and being told, you have to do this. And, so after that, we went back to homeschooling, just one-on-one, and she changed. She's a great student now. And
it's great motivation, if she's not willing to do her work or something, say, well, we can put you back in school if you'd rather.
In fact, I'll put you in public school where there'll be 30 of you in a class. So I have always homeschooled except for that one semester. But that was a lovely semester for my family to just show her what it's like.
That's quite a story.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good story. That's a good story. You're very brave. I think you're very brave.
Thank you. That's my theme right now, is to be brave. So to be braver.
So you have very good mother-daughter relationship then.
I think I do. I do.
They do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And how old is your daughter now?
She is 12.
She's 12. Yeah. And she's on the cusp of being a teenager.
She is. And we talk about this. I say, are you going to be a cool teenager? Are we going to still have this great relationship? And she's like, we'll see.
Yeah. Well, I think all those formative years, those first 12 years like that, if you can really bond and trust one another and nurture where their talents are and all of that, then you really have a good chance of, we sent our kids to school, but that was a different time. I think we were right at the edge of not sending our kids to school, because it was starting to change and we were starting to look at it sideways. Like, what are you doing? When I went to school, it wasn't about the teachers, like, at all. They were here to give us information and to do a good job of that, and that was that. And now it's about the teachers. Like, that seems backwards.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, we did leave them in school, but they're good kids, they're good kids. So attention, spending time with your children, listening to your children. Even when my son was in high school, I used to walk the dog with him to the bus in the morning, and he would tell me his plan for the day. Otherwise, I wouldn't know, So you kind of have to be around to hear the news. Otherwise, you lose touch with your kids, and then then you don't know where they are or where their head's at. And you can't do that. Because they need to be well moored at home.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's hard for a lot of parents, especially the ones that work full time, because, they're at work all day and their kids are at school all day. And then you get home and you're tired and you have very little quality time. But, I know lots of kids who have come out of public school or are currently in public school or private school. And the parents really try hard to connect with them when they do have them in their house. And so there's good and bad with that. There's good and bad with homeschool. But for my family, homeschooling is what has worked, especially for a boy. I'm not sure about the boy. This boy is so different. And, I've heard that boys and girls are different, but actually having these two, they are night and day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure about him. I sometimes look at him and I go, I don't know if I'm going to homeschool you. I think I am, but he's a lot.
You're more likely to just turn him out the door and
just go play with sticks.
Go play.
Have fun.
Yeah, go play with sticks. Yeah, that's right.
When we were at ICVM in 24 for the Crown Awards, and we won the ICVM Gold Crown Award for Best Feature Comedy, we were also nominated for Best Picture against Sound of Freedom, which is the Jim Caviezel movie that was out a couple of years ago that did so well. And that was like a little God wink for us to be nominated against that movie because that movie also took 10 years from inception to finally get it monetized and get it out there in a completed form. And so at that moment, Julie Rhodes, who was with us, she said, "Hey, you're nominated against." She was showing us the program, and we went, "Oh, wow, that's kind of cool." And
Jesus Revolution was nominated too.
Oh, yeah.
And I loved that movie. I was like, what?
Yeah, they're both.
Yeah, that was very good movie.
They're both great, but it was definitely an encouragement, I guess, or a little wink to us to go, "Hey, you're okay." It took it took them 10 years and they had boatloads of money and or support compared to what you guys were working with. So don't worry, you're okay. And it was like I was being, we're being petted. We're like, it's all right.
We needed some encouragement.
We needed that at that point. And so, and we're thankful to ICBM and those guys for the attention and the acknowledgement. So,
but people can buy our movie or rent our movie off of Amazon. And then they could also support our marketing campaign to help get the word out about the movie. And any support people throw at us, even if it's a penny, then we'll give them the Parents and Leaders Guide in exchange for their support. And then the soundtrack is going to be released, and you'll be able to hear it on Spotify and I don't know.
Well,
he knows all this.
Apple Music, iTunes, Amazon Music, YouTube Music. It'll be in all those places. Spotify is actually in question whether it'll be there or not.
Okay, it's in question. Forget that.
But yeah, and we're at Aria Appleton almost everywhere on all social media. AriaAppleton.com is our link tree, so you can link out to all of that social media. And the music is being aggregated through CD Baby to multiple places. But Amazon is the only place that we are currently available for VOD or rental if you want to check it out. And we would love for people to give us some feedback.
Can people get the leadership information right away as well?
Yeah.
They can. That's actually, if you'll go to givesendgo.com, it's givesendgo/Aria Appleton. They can register there, give us any amount, even a penny, and we can send the leader's guide. And if they're not willing or interested in doing that, they can contact us directly if they're not in a position to do that, and make a request for that leader's guide, and we'll send it.
Yeah. So I sent a link to you guys, and it is our link tree. So once you click on that, you can go anywhere. You can connect with us on Instagram or TikTok, which I'm really not that great at, but we're there.
Yeah, well, I think that we have to engage with it as long as it's here.
Yeah.
And do what we can.
But we'd love support in social media, and we'd love support by just, sharing the movie with friends, family, anyone that you think would appreciate it.
We're engaging in those spaces too for reasons of being at the table. And I heard one of the Irwin brothers talk about this recently, saying that one of the reasons that the industry has suffered so much in the last 25 years in particular is because the MPAA used to be run by the Christian churches, and the Christian church used to be heavily involved as a denomination running the MPAA. And then in the 80s, it became unpopular to be involved with Hollywood for various reasons. And so they stepped away. They stepped away from participating in that. And so I think it's important that people of faith need to come back to the table. They need to get involved. And if there is a platform like TikTok or something like that that people find questionable, well, why don't you put some positive content on it? Why don't you create some truth and put it out there for people? Why don't you use it for good? And so we're on that mission too, to not automatically assume that a technology, even AI's in the same boat right now. It's like just automatically assume that, well, this is going to be evil and it's going to bring about the destruction of the universe, and go, well, maybe not. Maybe if it
could, but it doesn't have to.
Doesn't have to. If it's all dependent upon how we engage with that and what our intention is, which we come back to kind of talking about. What's your original intention? If your original intention is to heal, to help, to bring light, to encourage, then you can take anything like that and make good out of it.
Yeah. Well, we have a large language model that was developed within house on the King James Bible and all of Dr. Peterson's books and everything that he's lectured about. And when I'm reading scripture, I can find some scripture that I find difficult to deeply understand, and I can put the phrase in, and then I can get out a philosophical or psychological analysis of it, and which is quite helpful to me, because then I can understand a little more about what its intention was. And these things can be used for good. They definitely can be used for good, but we have to has to have the right intention right from the beginning. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. For sure. And things can be redeemed too, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So, even
maybe
if
the
that
school system, but I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. Maybe the universities, but I don't think so. But there'll be something else that crops up. So we're in a time of a lot of change. And now that it's actually written for younger kids, I'm very excited about that. Because I think by the time I was 15, really, if I look back to when I was 15, I was really planning to find my husband and get married at 15, because I was a woman, even though a very, very young woman. My grandmother was married at 15, so it used to be something that we accepted as a possibility. And now we think, oh my goodness, no, we don't want to do that. It's like, well, I don't know. Do you also want to be in university from the time you're 18 until you're 30? And then think you want to start your life? That's a little late. That's what I'm thinking. That's a little late. So I have I've been dreaming. I'm dreaming about how to have hopeful messages for people so that they can live a life and include in it what is calling to them, even though maybe society isn't telling them that that's what's called for.
It takes a lot of bravery and truly trust in God to step out like that. You have to believe at your core that God is the provider and that there's enough to go around, that you are safe and you can step out like that to make those kinds of changes. And that's a challenging place for people to get to. The almost everything in our universe is bent towards trying to convince you that everything but that is true. And so it's all coming against you all the time. And so for parents to take a stand and step out and say, no, we're going to make some changes, but I'm going to have to take a pay cut, or I'm going to have to change my life, or we're going to have to move, or we're going to have to make some major boundary changes, and live on less, or sell a house, sell a truck, right? It's like whatever you're being called to do, it's scary, and you have to at some point be willing to leap out of the boat. And so we are incredibly empathetic to that plight that we are all in, because we're all dealing with it, and we're all being taught through those similar processes. And empathetic when it's tough and it's scary and it requires bravery, right? Just being brave.
Yeah. Trust. And trust, right? Trust is helpful between people who are in the boat together.
If you believe that God is capricious and out to get you, it's hard to get to that place. And so I'm thankful that Jesus has helped us create a perspective on God that reminds me that God has my best interests at heart and is working all things out for our good, because our hearts are turned towards Him. So and that does make a major difference. It does make a major difference. So
it makes a major difference to every day. And I start over in the morning every day, with a walk up the mountain and prayer every day. And that's very good for me, because it organizes my head for the day so that I can stay in the present and recognize when there's change about and challenges, and to take them as necessary. And who doesn't like a challenge if it's not too big, right? Who doesn't like a challenge if it's not too big? So yeah, to try to get my head on straight every day. It's a work in process. It's a work in progress. You guys are beautiful there, sitting in there. You're framed very nicely.
Oh, thank you.
And I think, and those lights sparkle like stars behind you. I like that too.
Thank you. It was intentional.
Yeah, we were trying to come up with something that thematically went with our film and or is, reminiscent of what's going on. And we use a repeated Starfield theme, and Arya wants to shine like the sun, and so we visit space for a few times for a metaphor or an allegory that she's making in the story. And so so this is our homage to outer space here behind us. I guess.
Well, I wish you well with your movie. I'm looking forward to seeing it, and I'm looking forward to my grandkids seeing it.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think that it sounds like a great project, and congratulations on launching on Amazon. And for your more major launch, I guess that's in June.
Yes. And so people can, right now, we're just quietly announcing, you can go find it on Amazon, but our marketing might deceive you if you watch our marketing for the next few weeks beyond whatever today is.
Whatever today is when she posts.
Yeah, when this launches.
You're going to be, it's not that long. It's 23rd of May. So it's not that long.
Right. Yeah. So if you're listening to this after June 22nd, then the film is it's out, and we're talking about it. If it's before June 22nd, it might not appear to be based on our marketing, but it is. It's still sitting right there on Amazon quietly waiting for you.
Okay. Great. Well, if you were here, I'd shake your hands, but maybe I'll get to shake your hands sometime.